Welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast, helping you get to your onward journey. A friendly service that helps you get from A to B, or probably nowhere at all.
Hello, listener. You're through to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast, Season 4, Episode 1. I'm your host, James, and with me is co host and producer.
Sam, good morning, everyone. How the devil are we all?
Well, it's our fourth season, which is a bit odd because, in TV terms, it's been like we've been 4 years of going on, but we've only been doing a year, but we break it up by school holidays. So because, we're very efficient. That's what I like to think. I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm quite good. For the first time in the last week or so, the sun is actually out, so I'm quite happy. My little loft area is nice and snuggly. What have you been up to over our little spring break? Is it spring break?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, spring break. Woo! I wasn't American starting spring breaking it. I'm too old for that. But what have we been doing? Well, we went to the Leighton Buzzard Railway for the boy's birthday, which was great because they do a little birthday package that allows you to bring your guests along, and you get a little reserved coach, and you get a headboard on the front of the train. So he had a headboard saying, it was his birthday, and that was great. And you got to have a photo. And the best bit of it was at the end, you get to have a little footplate ride, and they need an adult to travel with him. So naturally, I was the choice. So yeah, we both got to have a little footplate ride on the nice on Dolly, the narrow gauge steam engine at Leighton Buzzard Railway. So that was all good fun. And then a week later, we were at the Bluebell Railway and got to ride behind the West Country, and we saw the new build Atlantic as well, pulling out of Sheffield Park, which was very exciting. A lovely looking loco. And yeah, and then on top of that, Pico have announced their Rail 200 competition. Well, naturally, I mean, I bought a board, and then the boy obviously wanted to have a go. So I've been helping him. Well, not helping him. I've been guiding him because I can't help him. That's the rules, but I can tell him what to do. So he's been building under my guidance his Rail 200 entry. So it's all been good fun. How about you? What you been up to?
The layout has been separated for a while. They've been fighting each other, so I had to break them up. But I'm having a move around. So if you haven't seen it, I released a new YouTube video, which everyone was complaining they hadn't seen a new YouTube video for a while. So I did one. Um, Basically, I have a new job, and I don't start it until the summer, but I'm not going to be needing two desks, one for weathering and one for computer stuff. I'm going to be an out and about person, which means that I've got this scope of moving the room around a little bit to create a greater surface area. I'm not sure if that's right, but basically optimize the layout a little bit. So what this means is that the bridge section, which used to sit in front of my fiddle yard, has now been moved to where my desk used to be, and I'm going to be spending the next few months getting that sorted and having a loop around the edge of the room. That does mean that I currently cannot run trains, but it has given me a little bit of mojo towards the hobby again, to sort of try and redo some things. And by not having the layout out in front of me, I've also been cracking on with repaints and stuff like that. So I'm working on a few repaints for a few people. And then, sort of, as the summer comes in, I'm not going to be doing repaints anymore because I just physically won't have the time. On top of that, I got to go to Amberley Chalk Museum, or Amberley Lime Museum, however you want to say it. And that instantly rekindled the love for 009 because we got to go on a little 009, or on a little narrow gauge railway up there. And the actual line that runs around the chalk pit is very small, but it's incredible what you can sort of fit in that small space. And actually, with a little bit of uh, artistic licensing, it does actually sort of resemble a little bit my figure of eight. Obviously, theirs is an end to end line, but it's got that sort of really tight curve sort of vibe of going up and down. So it's given me a little bit of inspiration to start working on that again, very, very slowly, whilst I don't have the main layout.
There you are. See, 009 is always the way. It's nice and small. It's compact. You can just put it away somewhere. Everyone should have a 009 layout. So yeah. And talking 009, it's come up in the news. So we move to news because there's a lot of news to get through. Right then. Well, we'll move on to the very first thing we have mentioned is that Bachmann have made a 009 announcement, and it's very exciting. It is to be a rerun of the Quarry Hunslets, Alice and Britomart. So if you missed out on them first time round, or you just want another logo that you fancy repainting, um, yeah, get your order in because these will only be produced if enough people want them. I can't see this not happening because I mean the aftermarket second-hand sales prices were ridiculous. So I'm sure they will happen. But yep, I've definitely got my order in. I already had Brett Art, but I did want a cabless logo, so the opportunity to purchase Alice has been taken. So I look forward to that. But it would be nice if Pico, not Pico, Bachmann made those logos in just like grey primer, just so you could just paint it whatever livery you want. I've always wondered why they didn't do that with 009 because a lot of us do repaint our logos. But that was the first bit of news. I suppose the bigger subject for April, I imagine in the railway calendar, it will become the TT month because there's been a world of TT news, hasn't there? Shall we start with the company that started it all with the Hornby announcements?
Let's go. What was your favorite thing from the Hornby TT announcement?
Oh, do you know what? It's got with the Terriers, isn't it? It was wonderful to see. I knew they were coming because I think Simon Kohler had hinted at it before, or maybe it was in the mentioned in there originally when they were going to have the phase two, phase three, phase four, which they slowly dropped. I can't remember. It was always. Remember there being the little hint. But what a lovely surprise to not only have the Terriers in a world which was demanding a tank engine. I know we got the J50, but something that was not non-LNER as well to sort of broaden our horizons. But some coaches to go with it too. The four-wheel coaches, Stradley designs. I think that's great.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. And I know you text me and quite a few other people were like, have you seen the TT announcement? And I was like, it must be big if enough people are texting me about it. And I think the Terrier was definitely the left field, very exciting piece that came with that. And also, like, neither of us managed to guess it. So I think we were quite far off with some of our guesses towards the TT, which we obviously
I think you
recorded.
were. Do you know, I think the biggest curveball was, or the most unexpected one, was that train set.
Oh, yeah, big time.
I was not expecting to see a B4 in TT. It's quite a unique loco, I suppose. I think there's a handful of them built, but to see that enter the range so early, and it's quite clear that they've sort of ran it in parallel to the railroad version at the same time. But the TT one, I think it has a little less refined detail than the other models within the range, so it's sort of following those railroad principles. But if you look at it and compare it to the OO one, it's much more accurate in the positioning of all the the parts on the loco. Because obviously the OO one's designed to fit that generic chassis as Hornby like to use. But the other great thing about it is, it's £100 train set or one penny under at £100 for a train set, which is great. I think, and I think that's one of the best things about it because it was always argued this TT was going to be the railway for the family. It was going to fit in the family home. It was going to be suitable. And when it first come along, it was just the same old. We've got really expensive models for customers with deep pockets, and the kids can't join in sort of thing. And this appears to be the first step towards actually making it accessible to the family. So again, it's a bit like the January announcements from Hornby. Another really well thought out idea, I think.
Yeah, and I know a few people have said, "Oh, this should have come out earlier," and you might be right because obviously, if you're starting something for the first time, maybe this. But you know what? I'm really glad they've done it. I think that's probably where my mind is with it. That yes, if this had come out a couple of years ago, I probably would have jumped into TT a lot earlier because there was an entry level train set that was small enough that you could go, all right, I'm going to give this a go. But I think they've done a really, really good thing with their TT announcement by bringing this little train set out. And I think if we can get maybe one or two more like this, I think especially something that's a bit more modern era. And obviously, I'm gonna say that because that's where my bias towards locos lies. I think this would definitely it's now increased. It's made it rather than having I think it was £250 for the other sets. This one being under 100 is actually really, really good because we've now got an entry level to it where someone can have a test. Do you like it? Yes, perfect. No, okay, let's have a look at reselling it. And I think this will also be a good set that it will eventually be good for the real resale market, because people will be able to pick that sort of stuff up and go, okay, here's a train set that you can get that's a lot cheaper, and you can find out if TT's the sort of scale that you want. Because I think with TT, you can't gauge the scale. Is not the pun I intended to make, but it's really difficult to work out how big TT actually is until you see a layout of it in person. And I think that's what's sort of swayed me towards being really pro TT, because I think it is doing a really good thing for the hobby. And that's saying it as someone who's got a fairly large layout in their loft where I can run a large 00 gauge layout. And I still think TT will be something that in the next few years we're going to hopefully get some really exciting things for it. I was really surprised as well with the different liveries for the HSTs. Obviously, it makes sense that they've got the tooling for the HSTs. So Hornby have been for the last 50 years the sort of the bread and butter for HST models, and that's including the Lima tooling for them that they now own Lima. I think this is something that it makes sense that they've now brought out liveries, the Virgin and the GNER liveries, and it does creep that back into that sort of modern era thing where we can go, right, we're starting to get a few more modern era things to go with this.
Yeah, I think it's that 40-year rule again, isn't it? You know, again, I think TT is aimed for people around our age. I know we've always been in that hobby. We got back into the hobby a lot sooner, but there'd probably be a lot of people around our age that are going to come back into the hobby or just discovering the hobby. And again, what Simon Kohler spoke about when he first brought it out is it's aimed for the family, and those are going to be the liveries that are going to attract people into the hobby, because the GNER and Virgin trains is the kind of stuff that you saw about 30 odd years ago. So, when you're about 10 years old, and so that's sort of the nostalgia there. And I think that's one of the reasons for the choice of liveries. But I think it's a great choice of livery, and the additional 66s that we've been given as well. So we've got Freightliner, EWS. I think EWS is an absolute winner there, because now you've got something that can pull those merry-go-round wagons. They were used to replace this 58s and the 60s on the workings, particularly out of Avonmouth to Didcot Power Station. One of the runs they're starting to use on that, so you can model that sort of thing. And then we've got the very first, I think it's first GBR-F liveries when First Group first started up. So that got that livery as well, which fits around that time period. So yeah, I think it's great. There's the return of the blue BR Blue '08 shunter. A lot of people have been crying out for. I know it's a celebrity '08 shunter, but a bit of teacup can probably help you make it something else and just cover up that red stripe. And there you go. You've got the '08 blue '08 shunter that you wanted. And then I think there's a few more wagons. The TTA tankers are making a return in new liveries and triple packs as well. I think it's great. Won't be moving on to triple packs with that, because when you buy wagons, you do tend to buy them in threes, don't you? That's all going on. And there's more announcements later in the year. So this isn't it for the year. There's more TT to come.
Yeah, very very exciting stuff, and I think this is just sort of because obviously the rumor mill kicks up and people start saying, giving their two penneth, hence why we're doing the same, because we've got a podcast and this is our platform to do it. I think, and James and I have spoken about this about with TT, it would be great if everything that you wanted to model was available right now so that you could do TT. But this is definitely that sort of slow burner. Everyone complains about the hobby being expensive or that it's been priced out for certain people. This is that sort of time where you can go, right, okay, so there is only one or two things that I actually want right now that's available in TT. So maybe this is that time where you go, okay, so let's look at me, for example. There's class 50s available, one of my favorite locos. So do you know what? If you pick up a class 50 and then maybe you decide, okay, I'm going to pick up a rake of coaches, you can build that up now, ready for when it is time to have a layout. But then Peachy said to me that one of the best things you could do at this sort of time is this is the time to build a layout so that when you buy the stock, you can put it on there, and you are able to do that slowly now rather than going into 00, which has so many things available, but then you end up spending a fortune because you have that fear of not being able to get it in a month's time. So maybe,
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, it's the FOMO, isn't it? I need to buy that now, and then I don't think that's why we have so many box collectors, because they'll buy the locos and the coaches and all that, and then they haven't, they've spent all the money. They haven't actually got any money to invest in the pasteboards and the track work and all the buildings, etc. So yeah, it's I don't think it's going away. I think it's here to stay. I think the other announcement we've got on the news confirms that, and like you say, you don't have to dive in right now. You could start building a layout, but you could just build up the bits that you think you want at a later date and save it for a project for a later date. Because that's something I'm doing as well. So we'll have to wait and see that. But yeah, shall we talk about the other exciting TT news then?
Yes, let's talk about it. I was not expecting this, but oh boy, am I excited that these people are now coming to TT.
Yeah, indeed. So anyone that was who follows Peachy on YouTube would see that he put up a little teaser the other day, and as of Key Model World, it has been announced that Hellion are back in the game. They are indeed going to be making some TT120 models. So if people recall when Pico first announced that they were going to start doing TT track, etc., Hellion threw their hat in the ring and they said, "Oh, well, I think we're going to make a Class 31 and an '08 shunter." And then a couple of days later, Hornby threw their hat in the ring and said, "Oh, actually, we're making them and we're already very far ahead." So Hellion quickly grabbed their hat back and scuttled away, and they have returned with announcing two new models to join the range of TT. Sam, what are they going to bring us?
Well, Hellion are going to be bringing us the Class 122 bubble car and the Deltic. Not the rubbish one, the good one. And I think this is because I think Hellion do fantastic diesels. No surprise, I've always screamed about how good the Hellion 33s are. And as soon as I heard Hellion were going to be making a play for TT, my instant thing was, if we could get some 33s, that would be good. So yeah, Hellion coming to TT, and especially the bubble car. I think that is a good. It's not a full multiple unit, but it is a passenger loco that you can use. And once again, it allows you to run if you wanted to. You could set up a branch line in TT and have this going off and down the branch line.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I thought about it because I was like the same. I was like, 122 seemed a little bit of an odd choice to me. And like you say, like why didn't they go for a multiple unit like a 101? But do you know what? If you're sort of testing the waters and just coming into this scale, you probably don't want to invest a load of money in a two-car unit when you can make a one-car unit and see how that goes. So that kind of makes sense to me. I was like, well, yeah, the 122, and you've got the Deltic, the 122. I mean, Scottish modelers are starting to get very well looked after here because you can have them. You've got it depending where you're modelling it. Because I mean, I suppose the Deltics on the east side, but around the end of about 1967, the Class 50s were introduced onto the West Coast main line, so you can sort of maybe model that. You got the 37s, and then you got the '08. So yeah, if you're a diesel modeler around, you want to do like the '70s or '80s period, you've got all these great models. You've got the HSTs now, so the Delta makes absolute sense to bring into the range, and I think the 122 does as well because the 121 is more of a Western region unit, and at the moment the Western is quite neglected, and to have it sat on its own would probably not be the most sensible of choices. Maybe we'll see a 121 in the future because I'm sure you can just pretty much use the same chassis and it's just a new body on it. But yeah, this very exciting times. And that's four companies now invested in TT of the larger manufacturers. I don't want to knock any of the smaller ones that do all the little bits to go with it. But we've got Pico, we've got Hornby, we've got Hellion, and we've got Revolution, and that's why I say I think TT's here to stay.
Yeah, I think the people, the naysayers, shall we say, who say that it's not going to be around for much longer. I think the opposite. I think it is going to be this thing that comes in. It's going to start appearing soon enough in a big way in exhibitions and stuff like that. But it is that thing of, you remember, with an exhibition layout, you do need a certain amount of things to be able to run an exhibition layout. So we are dependent on what locos are available and people with the skills to repaint certain locos. So if you did want to have something where you had lots of A1/A3s or A4s, like if you've got the ability to repaint and renumber and stuff like that, then you're golden. But it definitely is one of those things where in the next 3-4 years, I think we're going to start seeing more and more, and especially with HSTs and the different versions of it, I think we're going to see a really good level of modeling coming in TT.
I think the one thing we do need, if Hornby are listening, is blue and grey Mark One coaches. That I think that's the one thing from their Mark One range, people are crying out for now is the Mark Ones and especially with what we've got announced, they go quite nicely with some of these models. But we'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure we'll get them eventually. You never know. But as my dad pointed out the other day with old Donald Trump's tariffs and that, model railways in Europe might actually have a bit of a boom because why would these factories in China want to start producing all the American locos at massive tariff rates when they can produce all the European locos and make their money that way? So you never know. We might start seeing things coming through a bit quicker because all those factory slots are going to be taken up by the European manufacturers.
So moving on very, very swiftly, as soon as we hit the stop record button at the end of last season, we did get a few announcements from our friends over at Scale. So James, out of the two, which one are you most excited about?
Oh, hang on. What was it? There was Class 31's batch two, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Which was incredible. Did you see how quick the Golden Orca Class 30 sold out?
I did. That was insane.
Amazing. I couldn't believe it. I was like, saw the post come. I was like, it sold out. I was like, but that email come through like 6 hours ago. It's just incredible. I mean, it's a lovely livery. Absolutely. I can see why people would want it,
Mm.
but amazing. And doesn't that tell you how good a product it is when it can sell out that quick?
Yeah, big time. The Rail Freight Red Stripe for me was a huge. I felt the knife go in me as it tried to drain my life force from me, I've held off simply because I've got other plans. But it, I've always liked Rail Freight Red Stripe, and I think that the 31 does suit it very, very well. I got to weather a 31 a couple of weeks ago. They're beautiful. Um, it, I think it speaks testaments to the reputation that Akira Scale had for locos and how well received the 31 was. So, yeah, I mean, kudos to them for having such a big boom on a second batch of locos.
Indeed, indeed. It's yeah, no, I think it's so exciting times for Class 31 modelers, isn't it? Because I mean, obviously you've got the Bachmann one out there as well. Um, I mean that one's coming in with TMC doing the Fragsenet pink, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, and now you've got the Curious Scale one in black, so they can all be friends and go together. The other great announcement, I think people have been waiting for this for a very long time because it's been quite a while since the first batch, but the PTA box hopper wagons are to make a return with the various improvements to them.
Yes, and this is another one of those things that just you see it and you can see the quality on it. And once again, I was tempted. I've held off on it, but I mean, depending on
But
the
I've
site.
seen photos of the Area U model of ARC trains with those wagons with a Class 56 on the front, and you're still making excuses not to get it. I just don't understand.
It's more of a thing of I'm trying to be sensible with my modeling in the sense that I already have a very full fiddle yard plus extras that sit on the side.
Yeah,
And
but just for the third rail things that all look the same. I mean, once you run one round, no one's going to know any different. A nice 56 with those wagons, people are going to appreciate that.
it would look really good. I don't get me wrong. I'm tempted by a set of those and maybe the second run of the Cavalex 56s. I'm not saying I will, but that is definitely probably high on the temptation list of models that I would like to buy soon.
But yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great. So they're offering ARC on a Yeoman, and I think the British Steel ones are making a return as well.
Is one of them load haul, or does it just look like load haul?
No, I don't think they went to load haul. I think they were out of use. I think they all started with British Steel, and then they became out of use, and the Mendip quarries took them sort of the late 80s, early 90s, off the top of my head.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure these still run near me as well because the Farlington Triangle does run the 59s and the stone trains that come out of Bosham. No, it's
Uh,
not Bosham. Botley, sorry. The Botley stone train comes on through. Um, doesn't come onto the island, but it's so close that you could probably say that someone accidentally forgot to throw the points if you really wanted to. But yeah, I mean it looks great. I can't see a reason why you wouldn't want to pick these up if you're looking for a freight train to populate your layout. They come in sets of five, so they just look really, really cool. Thing is, as we sit and record these, and then whilst James and I are talking, I'm looking at the pictures and I'm like, do you know what? It would look good having I'm trying to work out whether it would be a 10 or a 15 rake that would fit on my layout, but
10 will be fine. 10 will look reasonable. That
mm,
would do. But, I'm sure Curioscat will be happy if you bought 15.
yeah, I'm sure they would. But yeah, they look great and they come in a
And
nice
obviously,
multi-pack.
obviously, the more you buy, the better discount you get with them as well, don't you? With the wagon discount.
Luckily, I don't have to purchase those right now, but I mean, they are certainly tempting for sure.
We know how we talk about FOMO earlier. What's going on there. Anyway, right then. So other news, a lot going on, hasn't it? The whole of April, just everyone just decides to announce things. Bachmann, this was a bit of an interesting one, wasn't it? The Class 66.
Yeah, I, d- I'm trying to be positive about people's announcements and try and see like a better outlook on it. Like, I still can't understand why this of all models is the one that they're retooling.
It's Do you know what? I mean, these things take a very long time, and there is obviously a lot of new features that they put onto it, such as that operating coupling. I mean, there's light in the engine room. It's quite possible that this is maybe something that they were working on at the point when Hattons decided they were going to do a 66, because obviously we know there was a bit of a fallout between them in regards to the production of the Class 66, and it's why Hattons didn't sell Bachmann models
Yeah.
for I think up until their closure. As we talk, look, Rapido have just announced something as well.
Oh no.
But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe it was long in the pipeline. But I mean, the 66. There's so many of them. I don't think it's the duplication that's going to be the nail in the coffin for the hobby. It's kind of, there's so many 66s and some, various liveries. Some have had repaints over the years. I think the two companies could probably quite happily go side by side in producing these models. Again, it's down to the customer to, make their informed choices and decisions of what model they'd like to purchase. The Hattons model was considered a very good model, where it had some flaws to it. A Curioscale corrected those flaws, and it's now considered one, a really, really good model. And it'd be interesting to see this Bachmann model, and you know, what will a Curioscale do? Will they improve their model to match the Hattons one? Only time will tell, I suppose. But yeah, curious, but competitively priced as well, I think. So again, making your choice between the Icarus Go and all the Batman one, but we'll just have to wait and see in that one. Hornby, they've also been announcing, and we have two anniversary sets coming out. So there is, which I was very, very tempted, and I was like, why? I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. But the 80th anniversary, I believe it's 80th. I may have got that. No, 90th anniversary of the A4s in the silver named Silver Jubilee series, let's say. So Silver Link, Quicksilver, Silver King, and Silver Fox, all available as Hornby Double O models. I think they will look absolutely splendid. Obviously, they're Hornby Double O die cast, so there'll be limited numbers, and you have to pay a little bit extra premium for them. And then with that, what's the Hornby World War II anniversary locomotives? We got wartime black locos, including Flying Scotsman. There's an A4. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Apologies. I think City of Liverpool, one of the streamlined Duchesses or Coronation class, as it would have been, and then a Merchant Navy in wartime black as well. So the Western region gets missed out there. I can't remember if the Western region painted any of their big engines black. I think a few panniers got painted black. Yeah, they look great as well. And then, as I say, Rapido have just announced they've got their Crystal Palace brake vans. These are LNWR brake vans, and there's lots and lots of liveries announced there. Yeah, loads coming out from everyone. Obviously, it's all as we record prior to Key Model World this weekend. But maybe there'll be a few more surprises over the weekend, and we can talk about it next week.
Yeah. So apologies to those of you who are listening might think that our intro is a little bit skew with, and that's because we're trying to keep as much of the information in this intro from before and after Key Model World Live, and that's because we do have a finite time for when we can record. So bear with us on that one. But yeah, I think Key Model World, obviously you'll be a week late those of you listening at home to most of the general news, and hopefully we'll have some more stuff for you next week.
Indeed. We mucked up there. We should have made our release date for the podcast a Wednesday. That would have given us more time to
we
get the news.
we could, but in my head, I was like, those people who commute on a Monday morning, they'd really appreciate us doing it.
Exactly.
On this time.
Exactly. It's for
Plus,
you, the
plus,
listener.
if you look at the YouTuber like release date, a lot of people like to release on a Thursday or a Friday. So us doing it on a Monday means that people have watched over the weekend. They need something on a Monday morning. Here we are. That's how I looked at it anyway.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
So one last final thing is that on Wednesday, the 7th of May at 9:30 a.m., Bachman will be doing their summer announcement. If you probably will have found this very easy to miss. However, it is on the FE rail. They released some new buses, which, granted, I completely missed, and it was only because James from the shunting yard informed me. But the summer announcements for Bachman is on Wednesday, the 7th of May, and it says it right at the end of that video. So there you go. We've got a date confirmed.
Oh, very exciting. Wonder what they'll bring. But we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, there's lots be happening. The key model world has just happened as well. So, exciting times for us all. Anyway, shall we move on to this week's topic of discussion?
Yes, let's. So, James, just fill me in a little bit. What are we talking about this week?
Well, we decided that we want to reformat the podcast. We don't want it to get stale, so we're going to try a different sort of cycle of topics and interests, interviews, etc. Hopefully it'll work. And if it's not, feed it back to us, what you like, what you don't like. We always like a little bit of feedback, not criticism, hurts our feelings, but feedback. But yeah, this week I thought we could talk about buses on the bridge and other cameos. So I could have connected that to your story about the EFE bus thing, but I didn't think of that. Have we got a new advert for Empress Path, or is it still the same one?
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, look at that. That's dirty. That is filthy.
Sir, you can't get that out right now. Not in the middle of a dinner party.
Why not? I want to show it to all of my guests.
I'm afraid it's just not appropriate, sir.
Nonsense, Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, look at that.
I say, has he whipped out his dirty shunter for us all to see? You can get your models weathered by Emperor's Path using just the airbrush for a light dusting, or alternatively, oil paints and airbrush to add that extra depth. Contact Emperor's Path on Instagram at emperors_path, or alternatively, emperorspathcontact@gmail.com. Emperor's Path Weathering. If it's not dirty, let's fix that.
Only Emperor's Path makes it that dirty.
Right then, Sam, this week I thought we'd have a little modelling discussion topic and talk about cameos, things like buses on the bridge and other things you see on layouts, and what we like, what we don't like, what ideas we have, sort of take it from there and see if we can inspire our listeners for something that they've never thought of or considered, and sort of try and make the model rail replacement podcast a little bit more model railway relatable. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. So go on then. Tell me off the bat, what's your favorite cameo that you like to see on a layout, or your favorite cameo you've seen on a layout? I guess.
Do you know what? That springs to my head straight away? And it's Pendon, and it was always because it got pointed out to me. Is when you walk in, or when I did, when it was a long time ago, I need to go again. There's a cottage right at the front, and there's usually someone there to greet you and start explaining the layout to you. And they always get you to have a look at the cottage owner's garden. They've got a little allotment there, and they say, have a look at the cabbages. And on the cabbages is the tiniest little butterfly. It's a cabbage white butterfly on top of that cabbage. And that one's always stuck in my mind of such a great, detailed little cameo. I mean, obviously, Penguin really do go to the extreme for detail. Um, but I always enjoy that one. That's always been one of my favourites. But yeah, I quite like that one. What is it for you? Is there anything that sticks in your mind that you've seen out there that you think, yeah, that was pretty cool?
I mean, I'm heavily biased because I love seeing the Model U, sort of the people who have got their own scan of Model U and then they've put it somewhere on their layout for people to see. Um, I know, or I believe this might have changed, but I know Richard from New Junction used to take his Model U figure to different places that he'd visit. So you'd go to, I think, Richard from Everard Junction, he went and put the model on his layout. I'm pretty sure that's
Mhm.
one of the occasions. And it's that sort of, I very much like seeing the figures of other people be on people's layouts. Um, but I guess from a generic point of view, I quite like the train spotter. I think the generic, because that feels like, especially in our modern day side of things, the train spotter with a camera or with their mobile phone holding it out is probably quite a it's a relatable cameo that you can get, and whether that's someone on a bridge taking a photo or someone at a train station taking the photo, I think it just looks right because that's something that we're very used to nowadays. I mean, albeit most of us are the one doing it, but you do get the people, and it's the someone with a phone versus someone who's got a full camera setup who is going to town and doing it properly versus someone like me who records it with my phone. But it is that thing of, depending on your layout is modeled, is having that person standing there with some sort of recording or picture capturing device. I think that really makes it feel like a model railway to me.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Now, I think you're right in the sort of nowadays. And there is like a page on Model U, isn't there, where you can buy the YouTube celebrities and you could put them on your layout. So you don't have to invite Richard over and bring him his figure. You could just buy a figure of Richard, which would save you making cups of tea if you invite him over. But you know, if you want to invite him, invite him. But a lot more. There's definitely a fair few Francis Bourgeois out there on various layouts that I've seen. He's just sort of popped up on a station with his little camera on his head and that. And yeah, I think it adds a little bit more fun and interest to it, doesn't it? Just when you're looking at something and you spot something that you recognise, in particular, like you say, but when it comes to the various YouTubers out there, I'm sure I've seen others on layouts, but my memory's terrible, so apologies. But yeah, I think the train spotters are quite cool. Have you seen the ones with like the flash? So the train will pass through the station. And obviously, there's like a reed switch or something underneath, and it'll then make the photographer the camera flash, so it looks like he's taking the photo of the train. Of course, he's a very naughty photographer because we don't like flash photography on platforms. Thank you very much. But on the model, looks quite cool.
Yeah, I've not seen that, but that sounds amazing. That's so cool. I like the idea of that, and I think it's I think it adds to that ambience type feel, and obviously having a generic sort of station with, because you do see some stations where there's nobody on the platforms in the model railway side of it, and I think people you do need the cameo of people very much so when you're doing a model railway, and it doesn't necessarily need to be, if you don't have a station and you've just got a rural area, well, do you know what, you might have some walkers. Ramblers, is that the correct term for it?
Yes.
But you do sort of tend to find your walkers and stuff like that, and I think there are plenty of different manufacturers out there. There's fine scale figures and Model U, I think, the two that come to mind straight away, who do these like different things rather than just a standing passenger or a sitting passenger. And I know Bachmann also do a range of themed model figures as well. And obviously, Bachmann's ones are pre-painted, and that makes a massive difference to not if painting's not your forte, you don't really want to have to paint this really, really tiny person to go on your layout as well.
That's true. That's true. I saw George Williamson did a video on painting figures the other day, which I quite liked because he had this little trick of putting the black wash on, but you hold the figure upside down so it runs into all the bits where it would have shadow. I was like, I've never thought of that. I thought it was great. So yeah, I was thank you, George, for that little tip there. And I replied and kind of gave him one. I said, "You want to do eyes? I always use a mechanical pencil. Just put a little bit of shadow in the eye, rather than trying to paint a bit of white and a dot a pupil on, and they end up looking like they've escaped from Springfield." So, but yeah. So what are your thoughts about, the common one, the one people moan about, the bus on the bridge? Are you a fan of the bus on the bridge, or do you want to see other stuff going over the top of the railway?
I, s- I'm not against the bus on the bridge, but I do feel, and I think this is where my immersion with sort of the cars and stuff like that on a model railway may differ from other people. I'm not a massive fan of seeing it's the static cars on the road. I don't mind seeing the cars in a car parking space or anything like that. And I think this is why you see there's a big increase in people using the Magna Rail style system where you actually have the cars moving. But it's that thing
Mm.
of you'll happily have your model railway where you've got a train moving and stuff like that. But it breaks the immersion for me where you have a road where cars aren't moving on it, and albeit I've got the problem of that on my creek. One end of it has the M27 A27 motorway at one end of it. Now I've got quite a good thing in the sense that that's usually gridlocked, so I could easily put multiple cars on top of there and have them sat there stationary, and it would make sense thematically that a train would come through and those cars would still be there. It's difficult because I think it's a chance for you to show off another part of the Hobbit that you may like, and it may be the bus on the bridge. But I feel for me, it's the stationary stuff when it shouldn't be stationary is when it breaks that immersion for it. You could easily have someone who is a photographer or someone watching the trains come by remain stationary for the time that it takes for a train to come through, but the car's not necessarily.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think I've seen other people do it before. Exactly the same, like you say, whether they've modelled a motorway or a busy dual carriageway, and there's a car accident or something up in front or roadworks. There's a reason why the cars aren't all moving at 70 mile an hour, and they've all come to a stand, and they've modelled it in there. And I think you're right in it. It's creating that illusion that they are moving. They're just not moving at that moment in time while you're looking at them. So maybe that bus on the bridge, if it's just going over the bridge because it's just on its journey and it's not moving, then that illusion's taken away. Like you say, it does seem a very strange concept that we build this world. It's like we're just running a train for a picture. Everything else is painted, but the only thing that moves is the engine. And like you say, it'd be better if the world moved. So maybe that bus on the bridge should actually be at the bus stop, and you could model the door open, and a passenger is just getting on, and that's why the bus isn't moving. That's why the cars that are behind it aren't moving because they can't maneuver around the bus. Or you could just try and model one car with its indicator flashing, like it's trying to just about to move around the bus, and 'cause, I mean, some people do some incredible things with those little cars, and like the Fowler car system. Some of the stuff that you can do with that will, if you get like the digital ones, they will indicate and they will take certain routes, and it's amazing. And I think, yeah, I've always I have bought a Fala car system. It's never got to the point where I've actually managed to put it on the layout, but I've always wanted to have moving vehicles because, like you say, it just adds to that world. If the cars are moving and the trains are moving, it feels more real. The only one I don't think we'll ever get is little passengers walking around until nano robot technology is really at that point, um, that it's affordable and we can have that. But I doubt that's something the model railway market's looking into.
I
But
think I think one thing as well is that a little tiny human that doesn't move isn't so obvious, but having a bus on a bridge that isn't moving for no reason, it sticks out, and
mm,
it comes down to scale, doesn't it? It's having something that is that big on a layout. It is really easy to spot when it's not moving, whereas having people sort of stood walking along, it's that sort of ratio of speed. A bus would be moving at, let's say, 20 in a city. Let's say it's 20 to 30 miles an hour. Um, and in ratio to your model railway, by the time that a train has come onto the layout, in essence, that bus will have at least moved to the other side of the bridge by the time that the train gets to the other end. But
mm,
a human in ratio to a train coming on is less likely to have moved that far by the time the train has come and gone. So
yeah,
And I think and because the scale of the bus, it makes it so obvious. Whereas the humans, the figures, the animals and stuff, they're not as obvious with it. I think moving on to the animal side of it, if you've got fields with cows, sheep, pigs, or anything like that, 9 times out of 10, if they're in a field next to a railway, you might have it where they're just grazing in the field. So they're actually not moving. They are stood still. They are just enjoying it, much like the people watching on a bridge or something like that. And I think it's why it's trying to make things that seem, and I'm saying this as someone who there are so many flaws and imperfections with my own model railway. So please don't feel that any of this is gospel. But I feel like the smaller the thing is, the more believable it is that it hasn't moved in the time that the trains have come and gone on your layout.
Yeah, I think one of the tricks is if you have got people on there, and some people don't like having figures on their layout. Pete Waterman, for one, does not like having figures on his layout. He thinks that ruins the illusion. But there's ways you can again trick the mind into thinking that something's going on. So you've got someone who's walking down the street and they're in that walking pose and they're just frozen, like it's the end credits of a TV show. It looks a bit strange. But if you modelled that person stood next to a gatepost and the owner of the house is the other side and they're having a little chin wag over the gateposts, well, oh well, that's why they're not moving. They're just having a little gossip over there, and all of a sudden the world becomes a little bit more real because in a passing glance that's acceptable. That's what's going on. You could model someone walking a dog. Looks a bit odd if they're just walking the dog, they're not moving. But if the dog's cocking its leg up against a lamppost, oh, well, that's why he's not moving. The dog's just marking his territory and letting the other dogs know where he's been. And I think there are little tricks to convincing you that the world is active. And you can. I have seen animated figures. There is a model of Abingdon, the old station, and in that, the signalman is leaning out the window and he will raise a flag to let the shunter know that it can move. And I mean, again, Miniature Wonderland is probably one of the better ones for it because they do have the world is moving around it, not just the trains. I remember watching a video where they were building like this little town scene. They've got all the pigeons, and every now and again, the pigeons would just fly up into the air and then they come back down. They're on wires, and you can just about make out the wire, but there's only so far you can go. But you can do it. I've seen the other one as well. Chickens on one layout. It's like this little sort of magnet wheel turning underneath, and the chickens are all on top. And every time the magnet passes under the chicken, it pecks the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like they're active. So there are ways of doing it. It's just, I suppose, just using your imagination and just maybe observing the world, maybe observing the non-moving world. Having a bit of people watching and then just looking around and just going, why is that guy just stood there for? Oh, that's what he's doing. What are they doing? And all of a sudden, you can sort of feel a bit more inspired to how to set up the scene on your own layout.
I love the idea of having little things on the layout that you are a nod to something else. Now, I'm not a Doctor Who fan, which apparently is very rare amongst the model railway community, which I only found out. I'm just not into it. And I know that some people show their love of Doctor Who by having is it telephone box? Is that what it is?
The police telephone box, the TARDIS, yeah.
Thank you. They have like a TARDIS telephone box on their layouts, and I think that's when you get to share something that you really, really love on your layout or your model railway and things like that. I guess my equivalent of that is probably not the general cameo that you're expecting, but I have oil tankers which aren't in a traditional livery. They're painted in a fake imaginary Warhammer 40,000-esque livery, and it's just that nod to a lot of where I came from as a hobbyist all comes from Warhammer. I had thousands of transfers left over from years of collecting, and I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to quickly do a quick repaint, throw some Warhammer transfers on there, and it's that little nod that if you see that train pass by, if you're a Warhammer collector, you would know that that's the livery of one of the armies in it, and it doesn't have to be like something that's big, screaming, blasé, but it gives people that nod of this is something on my layout that's a nod to another hobby or another interest that I have had or a hobby that I did to previously.
Yeah, no, I get that. I've got obviously I never get as far as adding the figures to the layout. I have a box of figures that I've been painting. I've got some Micro Machine Star Wars figures, which are 1/76 scale, which is perfect to fit on the layout. So at some point, I can add a Luke Skywalker hidden in the scene somewhere. I've got a dash render and a lobot, not lobot or whatever Dash's robot was called. Anyway, but some of the figures are painted up as well because you can. I've got one painted to look like Wonder Woman because I'll do a couple of others and they're off to a cosplay event, some sort of Comic Con. Because you can then subtly have them in the scene. Well, whilst Wonder Woman, though, actually, it's someone dressed as Wonder Woman, and like you say, you can have those little cameos and little nods to your other interests. I do have a TARDIS box. I've got it right here, actually, next to me, and I do have a figure I've painted up to look like the Matt Smith Doctor, I believe. Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of fun, isn't it? Some people get a bit upset about it, and I've seen it where like some layouts, you'll have a Dalek or something completely far fetched on there, and some people do seem to get a little upset that it's spoiling at that. But like you say, it's your layout, and it's just a little nod to the other things that you like, and particularly exhibition layouts. Sometimes it's not just to entertain the more serious modeler. You got the younger modeler. You want to keep them interested. Well, they start spotting a wagon where there's a Dalek traveling on the back of it. And, what's going on there? What's that? And you grab someone's interest. So, it isn't wrong. It's just not everyone wants to do it, isn't it?
I think that's one of the. This is a reoccurring thing whenever we have a discussion. It is that a lot of these are our own opinions, and what we may like or not like, someone else may absolutely adore or just find so disgusting that they suddenly stop listening to the podcast. So, with that in mind, that's obviously some of the things that we like, some of the things that we don't like. Then, what's a cameo that you see that you go, it's not for me?
Wow. I mean, I do feel that the bus on the bridge does sit there too often, which is why I thought it'd be a good discussion and sort of title the episode that way.
Yeah.
I think there's other vehicles that you can do, other scenes. The one scene that I've wanted to do, and I've never got that far because I always change my mind on what I'm going to build and what I'm going to model, but I bought all the bits to do it, is I actually want to model a car that's broken down on the bridge, and I bought a smoke generator. So I'd open up the bonnet, model the bonnet opened up, and then have a little model of the engine inside, and then put the smoke generator underneath. So it looks like the engine's steaming and there's a bit of smoke coming off it. And then I'll have an AA van parked in front, and I bought the little light fit in so you can have the flashing lights, and you can have the AA bloke in there and he's having a look trying to fix the car.
Mm.
Well, I thought something like that makes it a bit more interesting, a bit more different. As I say, it's an idea I've had. I've just never got around to doing. Yeah, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think what I get quite upset about, but that is going to be right now.
So I have two, and luckily I know I'm not by myself on this one because George Williamson talked to us about it as well, and that is in the right setting. I do believe the saucy cameos can be fun and funny. I think they work really well at Miniature Wonderland because you have the ability that there's so much going on their layouts that having the saucy, raunchy little kits that you can purchase, Gauge Master being one of them. I think they're the ones that are by Knock.
Yeah.
And like the actual mechanisms behind them are really, really good, like especially some of them. But I think that they're the kind of thing that if I see it on even an exhibition layout, that's the kind of thing that for some reason it makes me go, oh, I mean, I didn't really need to see that. As I say, the scale that you've got it on Miniature Wonderland, where they're trying to keep kids and adults all interested in it, it makes sense. But for some reason, on your own personal layout at home, like if you want to put it on there, put it on there. But it's just not my kind of thing when it comes to a layout. And I think some of them can be, especially on an exhibition where they're more likely for kids to see it. I feel like it's probably something that you could have just left at home.
Yeah, I know some people sometimes they model the interiors of buildings and they're hidden in there, so you only really see it if you really look through. But I think they're funny. I think they are funny. But yeah, like you say, I suppose it depends where you're doing it at. But if that's the kind of thing you like and you want to put it in your model at home, you just have a little spy for them. Look at that. Hey?
Oh, this is going to fit with our new advert. But I think it's very much that's a at home for your layout kind of thing. I think what I'm saying is that for you at home on your layout, if you share it on Instagram, that's fine, or put it on YouTube. But I feel like on an exhibition layout, that's when I'm like, it just doesn't sit right with me at an event where there's going to be kids seeing it as well. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's
Do,
make it
do you, if you're going to do it, you probably need to model it somewhere where the kids can't quite see it. So if you've got like one of those really nice tower blocks that they make that you see on Making Tracks 4,
Mm.
if you do one of the bedrooms upstairs, which is higher than the kid can get, even when they're stood on a stool, you could have a little scene up there that might be quite amusing for people looking at this big, massive layout and then, have a look. Oh, look what's going on there. Oh, excuse me, kind of thing. But yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it?
I think that's probably the best way to word it is making it so it's something that can, if you want to make the adults laugh and see it, that's great. But having it, put it somewhere where it's in a sensible place, I think makes it suddenly, oh, okay, if you have got it in a tower block that's only visible from an adult perspective of it, that makes it feel a lot better. And then it becomes funny. But if it was like, I feel I'll probably end up removing half of this bit. But it's just not my cup of tea. If it's something that's so blasé and in front of everyone at a show, that's when I feel like, doesn't really need to be there, does
Yeah,
it?
I get that. I think it's Knock or one, definitely one of the German companies, but they actually do a whole barn, which is a brothel.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. I'm pretty sure it's Knock who also do the car that's sort of shaking from side to side. That's one I remember. But that one is so much more funny because that is
It's
subtle.
subtle.
It's
So
not.
you as an adult know what's going on in there, whereas as a kid you just think it's a silly car that's wobbling, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but then and I can't say the ones that I'm probably more talking about, but they're the ones that
But there's
are
in
not
I think
subtle.
off the top of my head, there's indoor scenes and there's outdoor scenes, isn't there? And I think maybe
Yes.
the indoor ones you maybe get away with. I think there's a bedroom one, there's an office one, and then there's more of the exhibitionist ones, which are probably more suited for the layout at home.
Yeah, that's tell you what, you've put it perfectly there. It's having the ones, I think, if it's subtle and on display, absolutely fine. You want the rocking car, have the rocking car. We've obviously got to be careful how we word this because we are a family friendly podcast. But I do think it is very important that you make it so that if you are going to put the raunchy ones, put them somewhere where they're not obvious, they're not right front and center, which quite a lot of the cameos can be sometimes. And I mean, all it takes is for you to go away, have a Google at the Knock figure sets that are mechanical, and you'll soon find one that you'd say, yeah, that's probably not appropriate to put it in front of a 5-year-old. Um, but moving on, the cameo that gets me, and it's probably one that could easily be solved, and I've mentioned it before, so this probably doesn't come as a surprise to anyone. Level crossings, and I know I've mentioned it, but I want to bring it to the forefront again. I have no problem with people having the moving up and down level crossings, the flashing lights, and even the noise of it occasionally going off is fine. But I do think the volume needs to be turned right down on it because not only for the sanity of those working on your layout, but the layouts next to you and the people in the same hall as you. If it's so loud that you can hear that noise anywhere in the hall, that's too obnoxiously loud.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
know a few layouts that do that where it is louder than any of the locomotives that are on their layout. And that's just ridiculous. What's the point?
It's yeah. I think we got this subject planned for later on in the season in regards to sound, but yeah, um, it can be overpowering. I probably mentioned this before, but I remember being at Gaydon and there was like a massive G gauge layout, and there was this Austrian loco with a very very um, loud engine. It was probably like a Maybach hydraulic engine or something in it, and it was so overpowering in the room, and it cut out for a short circuit, and all the other exhibitioners cheered because of the silence that fell on the room. And you noticed it, and you're like, oh my God, I'd go absolutely insane if I was in here for 8 hours. Trying to, show off my own layout, and I've got that going around all bloody day. It would drive me nuts. So yeah, no, I get your point of view there.
Yeah. I mean, you only have to sit at a level crossing to know that the sound of the train coming through the station drowns out the sound of that level crossing. So if you've got a train coming through and you can still hear the over and over again, there's a problem. And you've put so much effort into having a motorized sound, lights, level crossing, turn the volume down. That's probably the least of your worries when building that kind of thing. And it,
Yeah.
like I say,
Yeah,
it's
they are cool. I do like a working level crossing. I think they're very cool. I like the ones with gates that
yeah,
swing as well. But yeah, like you say, that the warblers are designed to be noticed and loud. That's the whole purpose of them. But yeah, on a layout that can be. I think I know which layout you're referring to as well.
Oh, it's
When I
Folly
say-
Lane. It's Folly Lane. Let's call it. Let's call it out right now. One of my favorite layouts in the world, and the one thing that ruins that layout for me is the sound of those gates coming down.
Yeah. So well, they were at Birmingham show in November, the Warner show, NEC, whatever they call it. They need to give it a good name. Obviously, we can't call it Wally. They need to brand it with a name so we can
Wally,
just Wally 2,
Wally with a
not
B,
not Wally.
the not Wally show. And I'm saying,
Show.
and I've said it before. Folly Lane is one of my favorite layouts, and I say this to Greg and the team. Like it is one of my favorite layouts. But you know what? If you could fix one thing about that layout, turn the volume down. Okay.
That's it. That would probably explain why they seemed a bit stressed out in that layout when I was watching it, if I'm honest. And that's probably why. It was that sound just stressing them out. They didn't even realise it. There we are. Cool. Yeah, do you know what? I have thought of something that cameo wise that does bug me. And it is people modelling the track workers like they're working. Because when the train goes by, they shouldn't be working. They should be standing there safely to the side. So that's one that I always think just move them to the side a bit and not have them working. I'd find it more believable that they stood at the side of the track and like they're waiting for the train to pass than them working and then the train to go past and they're still working. Yeah, again going back to that convincing scene of people doing nothing.
Yeah, and the thing is they are some of my favorite actual physical models. Is the line side workers kits, but I get it that in the real world they should be stopped waiting for the train to go past. But I do a cameo I do like, and I think it's Cheeky Tech who did it, and it might be Double O Bill. I'm trying to remember. But effectively, where they've got a line that's going off somewhere else that is there for the visual aspect of there would be more lines going off X, Y, and Z. But because it is a dead end and that tunnel actually goes to nowhere, they have a line side crew working on that part of the layout, and I think that's quite a cool little cameo that I do enjoy seeing is the line side crew who are tearing up the track. That the points are still there because it looks visually better for the layout, but actually that part of the layout goes to nowhere.
Yeah, that the O gauge Eastfield layout has that with the junk because obviously they tried to model it as it is with the junctions going off. They've got it under a TV procession and the chaps are working on the line. That's why the trains aren't going that way today. They're being diverted. And I think little scenes like that are very clever because it adds to the world, makes it seem it's bigger than it actually is, but gives you an excuse for not running a train along there. So yeah, I think in short, then I think cameos are great. I just think a little bit more imagination is all you need, and you can have a real great looking layout. I think it's probably what we're concluding here.
And on that note, if you do want a model of myself, or hopefully in the future James, then contact Model U and tell them that you want them to put our models on the Model U part of the website where you can purchase the models.
So this whole episode's just been one big advert for your new scanned model.
Yes, it has. Model U, I know you're listening. If you could put me on the that part of your website, I would be forever grateful because that would make me feel good. Thanks very much. Cheers for listening.
There's no shameless self-plugging here.
It's just self-plugging.
Yeah. Not even shameless. But yeah, I think that's I think that ties up nicely, sort of. But hopefully that's given people sort of ideas and food for thought and how they set the scenes up, what they're going to do, how they're going to model their world, and have us looking at layouts with a more convincing scene, I suppose. Right then, shall we take a break and come back for? We're not doing social media. Well, we're doing our own social media shout outs. We can do the exhibition calendar.
Yes, indeed.
You there? Oh, me? Do you like model railways? Yes, that's why I'm listening to the Model Rail Replacement podcast. Do you like Comedy? No, that's why I'm listening to the Model Rail Replacement podcast. If you like model railways and comedy, head over to BugglesKellyStation.com. From Dad's Army to Will Hay, Laurel and Hardy to the island of Sodor. Add a comedy cameo to your model railway today. All right, thanks. Buggles Kelly Station. You won't be wasting your time.
All right then. That is all for this week, really. I think we are no longer doing our social shout outs, are we, Sam? We thought about it. We're going to do what we're going to call it? Self-indulgent corner or something.
Yeah, the shameless self-promotion, I think, is what we're going to call it, and it's going to be coming to you shortly. But it's not ready to go live just yet.
No, not just yet. But basically, the idea is you tell us what you're up to, or something you want us to let the world know about, and you can appear in our shameless self-promotion corner, or whatever we decide to call it.
Yeah, something like that. It sounds so much weirder now that we've said it out loud. But yeah, that's what we're
It was
doing.
funnier in writing.
It is worth mentioning at this point in the show as well that, and we haven't said this for a while, but on whatever platform you are listening to us, whether it's on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or there are other various ones that people do listen to us on. If you haven't already, please make sure that you do go and give us a review. Simply because it's the kind of thing that helps us get noticed by the different platforms and things like that. So far, we've had great feedback on Spotify, so keep up the good work. And then likewise, if you do want to leave us a review on any other method that you do listen to us, or even just leave us a nice comment about the show, let us know, and we might read out some of those nice comments in the future.
Indeed. Right then, shall we have a look at the exhibition calendar?
Yes, let's.
Right, well, exciting things happening because it's we'll be coming up to a bank holiday weekend. Will be indeed. Right, we're going to start off then with Friday the 2nd to Sunday the 4th of May. It's the Warner's exhibition of the Bristol Model Railway Exhibition, and this is at the Thornbury Leisure Centre in Ulverston Hill, Thornbury, Bristol. There's over 30 layouts there, so it's quite a big show. It's always a good one, so I'm told, from one of my colleagues who it's his model railway club that's part of it. Just a little bit too far for me to get to. Following that then, Friday the 2nd to Monday the 5th, the Taunton Model Railway Group is having open days at Platform 1 at Bishop's Lanyard Station on Station Road, Bishop's Lanyard, Taunton, Somerset. So that's that going on. On the 3rd of May, it's the Norfolk and Suffolk Narrow Gauge Modelers 9th Open Day exhibition at the Bilbergate Hall, formerly the St John Hall, at Bilbergate, Beccles, Suffolk. On the 3rd as well is Kings Lynn Model Railway Club Open Day at the Grimston Village Hall in Clifton Howe Road, Kings Lynn, Norfolk. Severn Valley Railway Model Railway Weekend for the 3rd and the 4th, all weekend, at the Severn Valley Railway, Compton Hill, Kidderminster, Worcestershire. From Saturday the 3rd to Monday the 5th, so there's quite some big, long-running exhibitions this coming weekend, which is nice. Saddleworth Model Railway Exhibition 2025. It's a charity exhibition. This is the Saddleworth Museum and High Street, Upper Mill, Oldham, Lancashire. Sunday the 4th, Ilford and West Essex Model Railway Club Live Steam Open Day, Ride on Railway. So that sounds good. Adjacent to north side of the Chadwell Heath Station, it's Station Road, Chadwell Heath, Greater London. On the 4th as well is the Halifax Model Railway Club Open Day. This is club rooms 2 to 4 Deal Street, Halifax, West Yorkshire. The 4th also sees Slim Gauge Circle and American Narrow Gauge Modelers Rugby Meet, and this is at the Rugby Railway Club, Hillmorton Road, Hillmorton, Rugby, Warwickshire. 4th and 5th, it's a bit of an odd one. It's Sunday 4th to Monday 5th, Wexford Model Railway Club Company Limited Buy Guarantee Exhibition. St Joseph's Community Centre at Distillery Road, Wexford on Ear. Monday the 5th then, because it's a bank holiday, at Cleveland Model Railway Club's 2025 Spring Open Day, Unit 2, the Beehive Business Centre, Skelton Industrial Estate, Skelton, Cleveland. And that is all for this coming weekend. There we are. Right then, Sam. So we tie things up with, obviously, we haven't got anyone's little look at me corner yet. I don't know what we're going to call it.
Look at me corner sounds great. Maybe we should just call it Look at Me corner.
Look at me corner. Yeah, look at me corner. Yeah, if you want to tell us something about Look at Me Corner, your YouTube channel, or maybe a little project you're working on, you can contact us in the usual ways of the email, which is modelrailrp@outlook.com, or you can find us on Instagram and contact us that way through direct messaging. Alternatively, you can find Sam as
You can find me on Instagram at emperors_path, or alternatively, you can find me on YouTube at Emperor's Path. James, how do we get hold of you?
Are they really going to find you on YouTube? Because you've just ripped up your layout, and I feel there's not going to be a video for a while.
I mean, they might do.
They might do. If you want to find me, I am on YouTube with much more regular videos than Sam, so it's a better more high quality output, I'd like to say. It is Western Signalman at YouTube and Western Signalman on Instagram. And my email's still dead. That is all for this week. Hope you've enjoyed the show. And hopefully you'll come back next week. What are we doing next week? Oh, yeah. Next week is our 50th episode. So we're going to have 50 episodes of the Model Rail Replacement Podcast, which I think is quite impressive. I was trying to do the maths, and I still didn't think that was quite right. I was like, well, we've only been out for a year. There's only 52 weeks in a year. How have we got to 50? But we have. We're at 50. So we are answering your questions. Whatever you wanted to ask us about the podcast or any model railway questions, we could try and answer you. I can't say that our answers may help you with your modelling. They may make things worse. There's no guarantee there, just covering ourselves before anyone starts setting the lawyers on us. But that's all next week. So hopefully we will be talking to you again then. All I can say for now is that hopefully we've been entertaining, informative, and have replaced your model railway, if only just for a little bit. I've been James, and with me has been Sam.
This service terminates here. Please ensure you take all of your personal belongings with you.
Hello, listeners. We've got some very exciting news. Do you want to be part of the podcast? Do you want to join the team? Well, an exciting opportunity has come up to allow you to be part of the Model Rail Replacement Podcast. And here's Sam with the details.
This episode is brought to you by Patreon. A huge thank you to our Patreons for their support. If you'd like to help support the show, you can head over to Patreon and search Model Rail Replacement Podcast, where you can show your support and be part of the team.
Hurry, there's unlimited places.